Do certain nighttime habits common among older adults contribute to prostate problems? If you're over 60, 70, or 80 and frequently wake up at night to use the bathroom, feel pressure in your lower abdomen, or experience general discomfort in that area, you're not alone. Often, many prostate difficulties stem not just from age, but from ingrained habits. This article will explore 5 specific nighttime mistakes many older adults make, completely unaware of the potential harm. These aren't baseless theories or exaggerated warnings. They are backed by years of clinical experience. They help explain why some men continue to suffer from an enlarged prostate, even when convinced their lifestyle is perfectly fine. What's most frustrating is that these habits often seem harmless. For instance, a late-night glass of water, a heavy dinner, or ignoring the urge to urinate before bed. On the surface, these don't appear serious, but for the prostate, such choices have a cumulative effect. Over time, these actions lead to stretching, irritation, and wear on a gland already under increased strain in older age. This article will not only name these 5 habits, but also suggest methods to gently mitigate the damage. You might find that the path to restful sleep, pelvic comfort, and regaining control begins by letting go of just one of these habits tonight. Let's dive in. The first habit, consuming excessive water right before bed. One of the most common habits that subtly adds extra strain to the prostate is drinking too much fluid late in the evening. Certainly, many people over 60 are advised to maintain optimal hydration for kidney health, proper digestion, and overall well-being. However, when a large portion of fluid is consumed after dinner, especially 1 to 2 hours before sleep, it becomes a significant challenge not only for the bladder, but also for the prostate. As men age, the prostate gland naturally tends to enlarge. This enlargement, in turn, narrows the urethra, slowing urine flow and making it harder to empty the bladder completely. Now, imagine adding extra water to this already burdened system late at night. Instead of deep, uninterrupted rest, the body is forced to wake up repeatedly to manage the excess fluid. The bladder overfills, sending signals, and the prostate, already under pressure, struggles to perform its function. The effect of this habit doesn't manifest instantly. One might even mistakenly believe, I'm just getting older, so of course, I'll wake up several times a night. However, what's actually triggered is a vicious cycle. Excess fluid leads to increased pressure, and increased pressure leads to more inflammation. Over time, this low-grade stress can exacerbate prostate symptoms, showing up as increased urgency, more frequent trips to the bathroom, and growing discomfort. One example illustrating this issue involves an 82-year-old man named Walter, who was convinced he was drinking 2 large glasses of water before bed to flush toxins overnight. He admitted he hadn't slept through the night in over a decade. After a consultation, he changed his routine, shifting his main water intake to daytime, especially before 6 p.m., and only lightly sipping fluids after dinner. Within a week, Walter began waking up only once a night instead of 4 or 5 times. He summarized, "I thought I had a prostate problem. Turns out, I had a timing problem." Of course, there's no need to eliminate water entirely. Hydration remains critically important. However, shifting fluid consumption to earlier in the day, focusing on getting most of your intake before evening, can give the prostate a much-needed reprieve when it needs it most during sleep. If thirst does strike late at night, it's recommended to drink slowly. A small sip is enough rather than a full glass. It's important to listen to your body and allow your prostate to rest. The results of such a seemingly minor change in your morning well-being might pleasantly surprise you. The second habit, consuming salty or processed foods at night. If you're one of those older adults for whom dinner is the heaviest meal of the day, then having a bit of comfort food in the evening, be it a frozen dinner, canned soup, or a few slices of deli meat, might seem perfectly harmless. However, when it comes to the prostate, these salt-rich and highly processed dishes subtly create the conditions for a very uncomfortable night. The problem isn't just the salt itself, but how it affects the body. Salty food promotes fluid retention throughout the day, and this fluid ultimately seeks to exit the body precisely when you're sleeping. This can significantly increase the frequency of nighttime urination, put additional pressure on the bladder, and indirectly burden the prostate, which is already under strain. It's not just about how often you have to wake up. More importantly, it's about how hard your body is forced to work when it should be resting. When dinner contains a high amount of sodium, especially combined with processed ingredients, the kidneys and circulatory system remain active longer into the night. This prevents the body from fully relaxing and entering deep, restorative sleep. For men with an enlarged prostate, this means the pelvic area remains tense, swollen, and irritated. As a result, you wake up feeling heavy, tired, and more inflamed than the night before. I recall a case with a 76-year-old man named Glenn who constantly complained of nighttime urination. He was puzzled. "I don't understand. I don't drink water late. I even go to the bathroom before bed." However, when his dinner habits were discussed, it turned out he ate canned chili, ready-made meals, and salty snacks almost every evening, considering them quick and easy options. As soon as he switched to lighter meals with more fresh vegetables, lean protein, and less sodium, his body settled down. After just 3 nights, he stated, "I didn't realize how much tension was building up down there." The prostate doesn't just react to fluids. It reacts to the body's overall state. And salty, processed food changes that state. It elevates blood pressure, impairs circulation, and hinders the smooth drainage of fluids from the body. This leads to more pressure around the bladder, more irritation in the prostate, and more frequent trips to the bathroom precisely when you're trying to sleep. Instead of going to bed full of salt and preservatives, it's advisable to try a lighter dinner. Consider simple steamed vegetables, grilled chicken or fish, perhaps a bowl of warm brown rice or oatmeal. It should be something that satisfies but doesn't weigh down the body. The third habit, holding urine at night. Many older men, waking up in the middle of the night with the urge to urinate, don't go to the bathroom. Perhaps they're too tired, or it's simply easier to roll over and try to fall back asleep. However, most don't realize that holding urine at night can subtly strain both the bladder and the prostate, and this strain accumulates over time. When you resist the urge to urinate, your bladder continues to fill and stretch. At first, this might seem harmless, but as the bladder walls expand, they become thinner, less elastic, and more irritable. Here's how this affects the prostate. The longer urine remains inside, the more pressure builds up in the lower urinary tract. This pressure exerts back pressure on the prostate, especially if it's already enlarged. Over time, this can lead to increased inflammation, slower urine flow, and a higher risk of infection. It's not just a matter of comfort. It's a mechanical issue. A full bladder makes it harder to empty completely later. Residual urine creates an environment where bacteria can multiply, leading to irritation, frequent urges, and, in some cases, painful infections. And for an older man with an already sensitive prostate, this is the last thing he needs. I once spoke with 81-year-old Leonard, who had a habit of waiting until morning, no matter what. He said, "I just don't want to get out of bed if I absolutely don't have to." But he also shared how his lower abdomen often felt tight by morning and how sometimes, even after urinating, he still felt like something was left. He was advised to simply get up and go when the urge arose, even if it was just once or twice a night. Within a few days, he noticed less pressure, less residual sensation, and better urine flow in the mornings. As it turned out, he said, "My body was telling me what it needed. I was just ignoring it." The body has built-in signals for a reason. When it communicates the need to relieve itself, it's not just about comfort, but health. The longer you hold it, the more tension you carry. And the more this tension accumulates, the more inflamed and swollen the prostate can become. Of course, no one wants to jump up every hour. That's why avoiding excess fluids or salty foods late at night helps. But when the urge comes, you shouldn't ignore it. Respond gently, allowing your body to reset. Your prostate will thank you for this approach. The fourth habit, sleeping on your stomach. Of all possible sleep positions, lying face down might seem the least connected to prostate health. However, If you're a man over 60 and tend to lie face down at night, your sleep posture can exert subtle but constant pressure precisely where your body needs it least, in the pelvic area. Here's what happens when you sleep on your stomach. Your body weight shifts forward. This puts subtle but continuous pressure on your lower abdomen, bladder, and the area around your prostate. At first, it might not be obvious, especially if you've practiced this position for years, but over time, it can disrupt blood flow, increase pelvic tension, and hinder proper drainage of the lower urinary tract. The prostate is a small gland, but it is highly sensitive to inflammation and congestion. Even minor pressure changes, especially those repeated night after night, can contribute to discomfort, swelling, and slowed urine flow. For those already suffering from enlarged prostate, sleeping on your stomach can subtly exacerbate symptoms, even without realizing the true cause. I once spoke with a 74-year-old man named Harold, who described developing a feeling of tightness in his lower abdomen that appeared almost every morning. He thought it was related to digestion, but when his habits were reviewed, one thing stood out. He always fell asleep on his stomach with one leg pulled to the side. After he switched to sleeping on his side with a pillow between his knees, he reported a few weeks later, "I didn't realize how much tension I was holding down there until I let it go." There's no need to force an uncomfortable position, but experimenting with new sleep habits can make a huge difference. Sleeping on your side, especially your left side, helps reduce pressure on internal organs and improves pelvic circulation. Some men also find relief by slightly elevating their legs or using a wedge pillow to reduce pressure on the bladder and prostate. This is a subtle yet significant change. You spend 6 to 8 hours every night in this position, so even a small adjustment can lead to big results over time. If you're experiencing nighttime urges, lower abdominal pressure, or simply don't feel rested in the morning, it's worth considering how you sleep. A small adjustment tonight could bring prostate relief tomorrow. The fifth habit, ignoring the urge to urinate before bed. This might seem like a minor thing. Perhaps you're already in bed, comfortable, and you tell yourself, "I'll just go in the morning." But for older men, especially those with an aging or enlarged prostate, ignoring that last urge to urinate before bed can cause more problems than it seems. Here's why. When you go to sleep with a partially full bladder, that urine stays there for hours. It exerts gentle but constant pressure on the bladder walls and, indirectly, on the prostate gland. Over time, this residual pressure isn't just physical. It becomes inflammatory. It signals the body that something is off, and the prostate begins to react in ways that aren't always beneficial. As the prostate enlarges with age, it already slightly presses on the urethra, the tube that carries urine out. Leaving urine overnight creates an ideal environment for irritation, bacterial growth, and even slight swelling, especially if the bladder doesn't fully empty when you finally go to the bathroom. This residual volume becomes a breeding ground for low-level inflammation, and the longer this goes on, the more it can impact daily comfort. I once spoke with a 69-year-old man named Peter, who said he avoided the bathroom before bed simply out of habit. "I never felt like I really had to go, so I just didn't," he said. But over time, he started waking up more often at night and noticed it was harder to empty completely in the morning. As soon as he made it a rule to visit the bathroom every night before bed, whether he felt the urge or not, he saw real changes. Fewer sleep interruptions, easier mornings, and what he described as less tension down there. That's the point. Urinating isn't just about urgency. It's about maintenance. Emptying your bladder before bed resets the system. It gives the prostate a break and the body a chance to rest without internal pressure building up overnight. And even if the urge seems weak, responding to it reinforces the body's rhythm and balance. Some men find it helpful to make it part of their routine. Brush teeth, wash face, and go to the bathroom. Even if it's just a little, it's not about the quantity. It's about saying to your system, "We're done for the day." Your prostate will thank you. As with the rest of the body, it matters for sleep too. It's just a small step, but over time, it can help reduce swelling, decrease nighttime urges, and support a healthier, calmer rhythm for the lower body, including the bladder and prostate. In conclusion, Many men silently accept their prostate issues as an integral part of aging. Nighttime bathroom trips, a constant feeling of pressure that never quite goes away, the sensation of incomplete bladder emptying, all are taken for granted. But what if some of this discomfort isn't just due to age, but to ingrained habits? And what if changing just a few seemingly minor details in your nightly routine could bring your body and prostate the long-awaited relief they've needed? Today, we've examined 5 aspects that many older men engage in without considering their impact. Excessive late-night water intake, heavy salty or processed dinners, holding urine, sleeping in positions that put pressure on the pelvic area, and ignoring the last trip to the bathroom before sleep. None of these habits seem dangerous at first glance, but over time, they subtly create undue pressure, slow natural drainage, and force an already sensitive prostate to work harder than it should. The good news is that the body has a powerful capacity for recovery. And for this, it doesn't require miracle supplements or radical lifestyle overhauls. Often, it simply needs you to stop doing what harms it. It's important to let go of habits that make nights harder and mornings more burdened. Try giving your prostate what it's essentially asking for: a little more space, a little more rest, and a little less stress. We invite you to reflect on which of these habits you might have been doing without realizing its potential harm. Also, consider which of these changes you could try to implement tonight. Sharing experiences and insights on this topic can be valuable to the community. After all, even the smallest change can lead to significant improvements in sleep, normalized urine flow, and enhanced overall quality of life in the future.